a doorway into Nero's Rome. Come closer, and I'll put you in my sandals for a while. Not the polished marble version of Rome you see in textbooks, but the living machine of it. Streets that smell of smoke and fish sauce, temples where incense fights with sweat, and barracks where men learn to sleep through shouting. I'm going to walk you through what it would feel like to be a soldier in the reign of Emperor Nero, when the empire looked invincible on maps, yet trembled with rebellions at the edges and paranoia at the center. You'll see Rome at dawn from the heights of the Capitoline. Then you'll feel the empire pull you like a tide, north to the rain and mud of Britannia, east to the hard mountains of Armenia, where Rome and Parthia grind against each other, and back again to a capital that can burn in a single night. Along the way, you'll learn what a legion really is, not just battle lines, but engineers, surveyors, butchers, scribes, and frightened young men trying to become iron. If you've ever wondered what you would do, what you would hear, smell, fear, and obey, if you were stationed under Nero, this is your seat at the fire. And I'll tell it to you the way a veteran tells it, not as a legend, but as memory, with the grain and weight of real places. Quick channel note: if you're enjoying this kind of immersive documentary-style storytelling and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. It genuinely helps keep these stories coming. And if you want the next one, I need you with me. Chapter 1. Recruited by the Empire, trained by stone. If you were a soldier under Nero, the first thing you'd learn is that Rome doesn't ask who you are. It asks what you can carry. Picture yourself at the edge of the Campus Martius, the field of Mars, where Rome trains its bodies for war. Dawn is pale over the Tiber, the river moving like dull metal, and the air tastes of wet reeds and smoke from 1,000 cook fires. You're issued your first gear, and the weight of it is the Empire's handshake. A scutum shield as tall as your chest, curved like a door, a helmet that steals a finger's width of your hearing, a gladius for close killing, and that javelin, the pilum, designed so the iron shank bends after impact, so the enemy can't throw it back. Training is not heroic. It is repetitive violence against your own weakness. You march until your feet go numb, then you march more, because the Roman army is built on distance. 20 miles in a day is ordinary. 30 is possible. The pack bites your shoulders, and the men who complain learn quickly. Discipline is the true weapon. You practice with wooden swords heavier than the real thing, so your arms become stubborn. You learn to dig. Every soldier is a laborer, because a legion doesn't sleep without walls. Even on campaign, even after a march, you cut a trench and raise a rampart. The empire survives because it sleeps behind geometry. Rome itself is your first battlefield, not of swords, but of crowds. The city is loud in a way provinces never are. Vendors shouting under awnings, mule carts grinding over stone, fountains talking endlessly. You'd pass through the Subura, the packed neighborhood where narrow streets run between tall apartment blocks, and you'd understand how easily fire could take the city. You'd also see the power of Rome in its arteries, the roads, the Via Appia, the queen of roads, running south like a ruler-straight promise. Basalt stones fitted tight, mile markers standing like quiet witnesses. Those roads are why Rome can move legions faster than rebellion can spread. Under Nero, your coin still bears the authority of the Senate and people of Rome. But everyone knows the real command comes from the palace on the Palatine Hill. Nero is young, artistic, charming. when he wants to be, and dangerous because he needs applause the way ordinary men need bread. For soldiers, that matters less than it should until it matters absolutely. An emperor's mood can decide who lives, who gets promoted, who gets blamed. You'd be assigned where the empire needs muscle. In Nero's time, the borders aren't calm. Britannia is restless. The eastern frontier is a chessboard with Parthia. Judea simmers. And Rome, the heart, beats faster with rumor, conspiracies, trials, confiscations. You learn to keep your face neutral, because in the capital, words can kill. When orders come, they come on wax tablets and in shouted names. You join a draft of men moving out through the gates, past tombs, lining the roads like stone families, and you realize something sharp. You may never see Rome again. The empire is not a circle, it's a web, and once you're caught, it pulls you outward. Your first long journey teaches you geography the Roman way, by roads, rivers, and ports. You go to Ostia, Rome's mouth on the sea, smelling of salt and tar. You board a transport ship with its belly full of grain sacks and amphorae. The Mediterranean, which Romans call Mare Nostrum, our sea, rolls under you, and you finally understand how the empire holds together, not by one city, but by constant movement. If your destination is Britannia, the sea turns rough and gray as you push north. If it's the east, you head toward Greece and Asia Minor, where coastlines fold like parchment and mountains rise like broken teeth. Either way, you're leaving the center of the world you knew and becoming a tool in the hands of something older and larger than any one man, even Nero. And at night, on deck or in a crowded barracks at some way station, you hear the veterans talk. They don't talk about glory first. They talk about weather, mud, hunger, and the way fear hides inside you until the first moment steel is near. You listen because you have no choice but to become the kind of man who can hold a line. Chapter 2. Britannia. Mud, rebellion, and the day the island roared. If you were sent to Britannia under Nero, you'd feel Rome become a distant rumor. The island greets you with cold rain and the smell of wet earth. You land after crossing the channel from Gaul, stepping onto a shore that feels unfinished. Fewer stone cities, more timber, more open land. Roman engineers are everywhere, cutting straight roads through stubborn countryside, raising forts with crisp corners that look almost arrogant against the rolling hills. Britannia is not one war. It's 100 small ones. Patrols along roads, building bridges, escorting tax collectors, putting down raids. And beneath all of it is resentment. Rome demands tribute, land, obedience. And the local elites who cooperate often do so with clenched teeth. Then comes the revolt that makes the whole province shake. Boudicca. You'd hear the name before you see the war. A queen of the Iceni, wronged by Roman officials, rising like a storm. Her story travels in whispers through the forts. Roman abuses, humiliation, seized property, violence done in the name of law. The anger isn't just hers, it's an entire region igniting. You might be stationed near Londinium, a growing trading settlement by the Thames, or near Camulodunum, Colchester, a Roman colony that sits like a boast in hostile land. The first sign of disaster is refugees. Faces streaked with mud carrying children, stumbling along the roads Rome built. Then the smoke on the horizon darker than cloud. What you'd see in a rebellion is not neat battle lines at first. You'd see towns burning, storehouses looted, temples defaced. You'd see the terrible logic of vengeance. Colonists killed because they represent Rome collaborators killed because they remind rebels of compromise. The air tastes like charred timber, and panic when the Roman commander, Suetonius Paulinus, gathers his forces. You finally witness the legion as a single creature. Men who have marched separately become one spine, shields lock. Orders travel down the line without needing explanation. This is what training was for, to replace individual fear with collective habit. The decisive battle, somewhere along a constricted road with woods on one side, open ground on the other, feels like the world holding its breath. Boudicca's coalition arrives huge, roaring, confident, with wagons drawn up behind them like an audience expecting a spectacle. You'd see families there, watching, certain that numbers alone will crush Rome. But Rome chooses the ground carefully. That is the secret that breaks larger armies. In a narrow front, the enemy cannot surround you. Your line is solid. Your pila fly first, heavy, thudding into shields, punching through, bending, dragging defenses down like anchors. Then comes the push, scutum against bodies, the short sword working in brutal, efficient strokes. Not wide, heroic swings, tight movements, ribs, bellies, thighs, the kind of killing that feels more like work than glory. You'd hear two sounds most clearly, the deep, rhythmic shout of your own line, voices forcing courage into lungs, and the chaos of the enemy crowd as momentum collapses. When the rebels retreat, they crash into their own wagons. A rout becomes a trap. What follows is slaughter, and afterward there is no cheering, only exhaustion and the strange quiet that comes when your mind refuses to process what your eyes just recorded. In the aftermath, Britannia is subdued but not healed. You patrol burned places where the ground is still black. You see Roman officials become harsher because fear makes empires tighten their grip. You also see the limits of power. Roads can carry legions, but they can't carry legitimacy. If you survive Britannia, you come away with a new understanding. Rome's enemies are not always foreign armies. Sometimes they are the people living under Rome's shadow. And when that shadow gets too heavy, the earth itself seems to rise against you. Chapter 3, the Eastern Front, Armenia, Parthia, and war in the mountains. If Britannia teaches you endurance, the East teaches you strategy. In Nero's reign, Armenia becomes the hinge of an imperial struggle. It sits between Rome and Parthia like a contested crown. Mountainous, difficult, and politically essential. Control of Armenia is not just pride. It's leverage over trade routes, influence over neighboring kingdoms, and a buffer that keeps Parthian horse archers from pressing too close to Roman Syria. You move through Asia Minor, where the land changes fast. Coastal plains, then ridges, then high plateaus that feel like the sky has lowered. Cities here are older than Roman rule. Greek theaters, local temples, market squares with different languages bouncing off the stones. In the East, Rome rules not by replacing cultures, but by sitting atop them, collecting taxes and keeping roads safe. You're likely under commanders like Corbulo, the kind of general who makes the army sharper simply by being present. In the East, discipline is life. Supply lines stretch long. Water is measured. A mistake can mean dying not from an enemy blade, but from hunger in a pass where nothing grows. Armenia is harsh beauty. Mountains with snow like chalk lines, valleys that hide villages and ambushes, rivers that cut through rock. Campaigning here is a lesson in logistics. You build roads where there were goat paths. You drag siege equipment up slopes that feel impossible. You learn to fear the weather as much as the enemy. The Parthians are not like the rebels in Britannia. They are an imperial rival with a different style of war. Their cavalry moves fast. Their arrows darken the air. Their armored cataphracts hit like moving walls. Against them, the legion becomes a fortress that can walk. You form tight squares, shields angled, discipline holding the structure together under a rain of missiles. Siege warfare becomes your world. Fortified towns and cities like Artaxata and Tigranocerta are not taken by bravery alone, but by engineering. You dig trenches, raise ramps, build towers, and starve defenders. The Roman army's true genius is that it can turn time into a weapon. Every day the enemy remains behind walls is another day their supplies shrink and their hope thins. You see, diplomacy is part of war. Armenia's throne is a political instrument, and emperors treat kings like pieces. Battles win moments, alliances and appointments win years. When Rome installs a client king, banners fly and coins change hands. But beneath the ceremony, you feel the tension. Everyone knows this arrangement lasts only as long as Rome can enforce it. And yet, even here, far from Nero's palace, the emperor's shadow reaches you. Victories are announced in Rome, celebrated with speeches and performances, and sometimes used to distract from troubles at home. You might hear rumors from travelers. Nero sings on stage. Nero races chariots. Nero wants to be loved as an artist. Out here, you want grain that isn't moldy and boots that don't fall apart. If you survive the Eastern campaigns, you gain something rare: perspective. You've seen how big the empire really is. You've watched the sun rise over Syrian plains and set behind Armenian mountains. You've stood guard in cities where people speak languages you don't understand, while still paying taxes that flow to Rome. And you begin to suspect a truth that veterans carry quietly. An empire can win in distant mountains and still be fragile at its center, because the center is where pride lives, and pride is easier to injure than armies. Chapter 4. Rome burns, Rome fears, and a soldier learns who the enemy can be. If you return to Rome under Nero, you return to a city that feels the same, until it doesn't. You come back expecting the familiar. The forum crowded with lawyers and merchants, temples standing calm, the Palatine bright with imperial luxury. And for a moment, you get it. You walk past the Colosseum's future footprint, still a dream in Nero's time, and you see projects rising, scaffolds everywhere. Rome is always building, always declaring itself eternal through stone. Then, in the year 64, the city burns. If you were there, you'd never forget the first night. Fire moves differently in a dense city of timber beams, oil lamps, pack shops, and narrow streets. It runs, it climbs, it leaps rooftops as if it has intention. You'd hear a sound like a storm made of cracking wood and collapsing walls. People scream names, carry whatever they can, abandon whatever they can't. Animals bolt. Smoke makes the moon look bruised. As a soldier, you're pulled into emergency labor, forming lines to clear paths, guarding storehouses, trying to keep order while the city becomes a panicked organism. You might help demolish buildings to create fire breaks, an awful act that still feels like saving a drowning man by breaking his arm. You'd see families camped in open spaces, the Campus Martius filled with the displaced, faces gray with ash. After the fire, Rome is changed. Nero rebuilds, wider streets, new rules, more stone. But rebuilding is not just architecture, it is narrative. Who is blamed matters. Rumors swirl. Was the fire accident, negligence, or something darker? In a city where politics is theater, truth is often a weapon rather than a destination. You'd witness fear harden into policy. Nero's reign, especially after conspiracies like the Pisonian plot, becomes a machine for identifying enemies. Informers multiply, trials accelerate, wealthy men vanish into exile or execution, their property seized. In the barracks, you learn to speak carefully. Loyalty is demanded not just in war but in conversation. You also see how the army can be used inside the state. Soldiers are supposed to fight Rome's enemies. But under a paranoid emperor, the definition of enemy stretches. A senator can become an enemy. A philosopher can become an enemy. A neighbor can become an enemy. And beyond Rome, the empire continues to crackle. In Judea, revolt finally ignites into open war in the late 60s. If your unit is sent east again, you'd march toward a land thick with history and tension, Jerusalem, Caesarea, roads lined with ancient stones and newer resentments. You'd see that rebellions are never only military. They are spiritual, political, and personal. A legion can take a city, but it cannot easily take the meaning people attach to it. By the end of Nero's reign, another truth becomes unavoidable. Emperors are mortal, and when an emperor loses the confidence of the elite and the army, the world can tilt fast. Nero's final years feel like standing on a platform that shakes slightly under your feet. You hear of governors declaring loyalty elsewhere. You hear of legions shifting their support. The empire that looked solid begins to look like it is held together by agreements that can break. If you were a soldier then, you'd feel torn between two Roman instincts: obedience to command and loyalty to the idea of Rome itself. Nero is an emperor, yes, but Rome is older than any emperor. Soldiers talk late at night, voices low about what happens if the emperor falls. No one says civil war too loudly, but the word lives in the silence. And when Nero finally collapses, abandoned, condemned, dying outside the city, there is no clean ending. You don't feel triumph. You feel uncertainty, because you realize something that changes you. The greatest danger to a Roman soldier is not always a foreign spear. Sometimes it's the politics of the capital, where power eats its own. That is what Nero's Rome does to you. It makes you strong in body, competent in violence, fluent in roads and rivers and fort walls, and it teaches you a quieter lesson. Empires are not only built by conquest, they are also unmade by fear. Outro. If you made it this far, thank you for staying with me through Nero's Rome, from the training fields by the Tiber to the mud of Britannia, the mountains of Armenia, and the ash of the Great Fire. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and like the video. It's the simplest way to support this channel, and it's how you tell me you want the next chapter in another corner of history.